Students in UC Santa Barbara are mourning the death of 6 of their peers after a shooter, who we will not identify on this program, stabbed 3 of his roommates and then proceeded to shoot 3 students, 1 in a deli and 2 of them outside of a sorority. Now, the reason why the shooting happened was because the shooter felt as though he was being rejected by women. There were a number of posts on YouTube and on social media indicating that he was frustrated with his lack of love life. He was a virgin, and he felt that the reason why he was a virgin was because women were not giving him a fair shot or a chance. And after he carried out this terrible shooting and this terrible event, he decided to shoot himself and committed suicide as police were chasing him down. He crashed his black BMW, and that was when he shot himself. Now, after this event took place, we found that he had sent a 141-page manifesto to his mental health provider, and he also did the same to his parents. When his parents had read it, they alerted the authorities immediately. However, it was too late. This event unfortunately took place Friday night, and by the time his parents arrived to the scene, he had already killed 6 people at the university. Now, there was one YouTube video he posted online where he kind of specifies what he was so frustrated about. Let's take a quick look at the first video.
Whenever I drive through this college town called Isla Vista, which is just right next to UCSB, I see so many hot, beautiful blonde girls walking with absolute stupid, obnoxious-looking douchebags. And I just can't help but think how wrong that is. Those beautiful blonde girls should be walking with me, not those brutes. I deserve them more. Why do those horrible men get to experience the love and affection of such beautiful, heavenly girls, while I've had to rot in loneliness all my life? It's not fair.
So that was really what he wrote about the most in his manifesto. He felt that it was really his entitlement. He was entitled to get the love and affection of women. And unfortunately, women were going for, quote, douchebag men. And he was also specific about how he didn't agree with blonde women going for minorities, which was another weird angle to his manifesto. But his sexual frustration obviously grew to the point where he took matters into his own hands. He had legally purchased 3 different guns in the state of California. He was diagnosed with Asperger's, although he was a high-functioning Asperger's person. He was diagnosed as early as 9 years old, and he had been seeing mental health professionals for his condition. He was prescribed medication. However, he refused to take that medication after he Googled it. But this story is very unique in the sense that, yes, this is another mass shooting that happened here in the United States, but it's really difficult to pinpoint a particular political agenda to it. And the reason why I say that is because he lives in a state, California, or lived in a state, where we have the strictest gun laws in the country. And at the same time, you can't really pinpoint our lack of mental health care because he came from a relatively wealthy family and had access to that health care. However, he carried out the shooting anyway. But before we get to all of that, let's just watch one last video where he speaks in more detail about why he's going to do what he did.
I don't understand you girls. It's like your sexual attraction is flawed. It's perverted. You're attracted to the wrong kind of guy. You should be attracted to guys like me. Beautiful, magnificent guys. This world, it's so twisted. It's so cruel. And you girls make it cruel. You girls have starved me of sex and enjoyment and pleasure for my entire youth. You've taken 8 years away from my life. 8 years I'll never get back. Do you know how much misery you've caused me? I'm such a nice guy. Why won't you give me a chance?
What's incredible about that video is it isn't the only time that he posted something online indicating that he was sad, that he was lonely, that he had this ridiculous amount of hatred and anger toward women and specific men. I mean, he had been going to pickup artist websites. He had been posting in forums saying really hideous and heinous, violent things about women. He had threatened to hurt women in some of those posts. However, considering the fact that the NSA is collecting all of this private data on us regularly, it amazes me that they never thought that there was something a little questionable about this guy, or that maybe they should look into him further. Now, to give you more context into his mental health, his parents were actually very concerned about his mental health, and they alerted authorities about him after he had said that he was extremely depressed, he was angry, he was frustrated. Authorities showed up to his door and they said, well, he seemed completely fine, he was a little shy, he was articulate, he didn't seem like he was under the influence of any drugs, so they decided against searching his home or doing anything like that. But he was actually worried because at that point he had already purchased 3 guns and he had already written his manifesto. In fact, he had said later on that he was happy that the cops didn't search the home because they would have unraveled his plot and he wouldn't be able to carry out what he unfortunately did last Friday. Now, to give you a sense of how many weapons he had, or exactly the type of weapons he had 3 semi-automatic handguns and 400 rounds of ammunition. The Daily Mail did post pictures of his weapons. After he had purchased the weapons, he had written about them, and here is what he said. He said, I had already done some research on handguns and I decided to purchase the Glock 34 semi-automatic pistol, an efficient and highly accurate weapon. I signed all of the papers and was told that my pickup day was mid-December. He continues to write, after I picked up the handgun, I brought it back to my room and felt a sense of power. I was armed. Who's the alpha male now, bitches? So he obviously purchased these guns with the intent of using them to harm others. So California isn't like other, let's say, red states where they have very relaxed gun laws. In California, for instance, gun owners must pass a state and federal background check. They then must wait 10 days after the purchase of a handgun before they pick it up at the store. California residents cannot buy more than 1 handgun each month. And also, though all 3 of the pistols were designed to hold at least 15 rounds, California law limits magazine capacity to 10 rounds. So again, if you do a comparison of California and all other states, you'll notice that California does have some of the strictest gun laws on the books. And I tell you that as someone who's an advocate for gun laws because I don't want this to be a story about politics. I don't want this to be a story where someone uses it for their own political agenda. This is a case where he got the mental health that he needed. This is a case where we have gun laws on the books. There are some advocates or anti-gun individuals who say, hey, if he was diagnosed with Asperger's, then he shouldn't have any access to guns. Well, that's an interesting argument, but if you look at high-functioning Asperger's individuals, they are usually people who have problems with social skills. So for instance, they have problems with communicating with their peers. They might have repetitive behaviors. They might have certain rituals that they do over and over again. But mostly it's focused on this antisocial behavior. So maybe it makes sense to have a conversation about whether or not someone with Asperger's should have the ability to get a gun. But to me, the most jarring part about this story is that he was posting anti-women, anti-men, really violent things online, and no one even thought to look into it, right? I'm not saying, hey, you know what, he's posting something negative online, let's arrest him. I'm just saying that if he has this pattern where he's saying violent things about specific people on forums, then in the age of the NSA collecting all of this private information on us, why isn't it that there wasn't a red flag? Why is it that the parents turned him into the authorities and they didn't do a proper investigation? That's really the part of the story that stands out to me more than anything else.